Joseph's journey from prison to power. I want you to imagine standing in Joseph's shoes, a young man with a dream that one day he would rise above, a dream so big that when he spoke it out loud, even his brothers hated him for it. And isn't that how life works? The moment you share a vision that's bigger than the world around you, opposition shows up. People laugh, people betray, people doubt. But Joseph's story teaches us something profound. Setbacks are not signals of your failure. Setbacks can be stepping stones to your destiny. Joseph was 17 when God gave him a dream. He saw visions of greatness, of leadership, of influence. Genesis 37:5 says, Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. How many of you have ever had a dream so bold that people couldn't handle it? Maybe you said, I want to start a business. They laughed. Maybe you said, I'll be the first in my family to graduate. They doubted. Maybe you said, I want to change the world. They rolled their eyes. Joseph's brothers didn't just laugh. They betrayed him. They sold him into slavery. Imagine that pain. Imagine your own family turning their back on you. But here's the truth. Betrayal often positions you for breakthroughs. What his brothers meant for harm, God was already using for good. Joseph ends up in Egypt, a slave in the house of Potiphar. He has every reason to quit, every reason to complain. But instead, he gives his best. Genesis 39 verse 2 says, The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. Joseph teaches us this. You don't need perfect conditions to produce excellent results. Excellence is not about where you are, it's about who you are. Even as a slave, Joseph's character made him stand out. Potiphar saw it. People around him saw it. And eventually, he was promoted to oversee the whole household. That's the principle. When you're faithful in the little, God prepares you for the much. But then came another setback. Potiphar's wife falsely accused Joseph. He did nothing wrong, and yet he was thrown into prison. Now pause there. Some of you are in your own kind of prison today. Not bars of iron, but bars of circumstance. A job that feels like a dead end, a relationship that's broken, a financial struggle that's crushing. And you're asking, why me? Why now? I did the right thing, but I'm paying the wrong price. Joseph could have quit. He could have drowned in bitterness, but he didn't. Genesis 39:21 says, But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. Even in prison, Joseph prospered. Even in chains, Joseph led. Even in the pit, Joseph prepared for the palace. Friends, your location doesn't define your destiny. Your faith does. One day, two of Pharaoh's officials, the cupbearer and the baker, were thrown into the same prison. They each had troubling dreams, and Joseph, with God's wisdom, interpreted them. He tells the cupbearer, In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position. Genesis 40:13. Joseph asked one thing in return. Remember me when it is well with you. But guess what? The cupbearer forgot. 2 whole years passed. 2 years. Imagine being stuck in prison, knowing you have gifts, knowing you have potential, but being forgotten. How many of you feel like that today? Forgotten by people, overlooked by opportunities. But hear me, people may forget you, but God never does. Then one night, Pharaoh himself had a dream. None of his magicians, none of his wise men could explain it. Suddenly, the cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh. He listened, and with boldness said, Genesis 41:16, I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires. Did you hear that humility? Joseph knew the source of his gift. He interpreted the dream, 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine. and Pharaoh was so moved that he appointed Joseph second in command over all of Egypt, from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to favored, from pit to palace. But Joseph's story doesn't end with his rise to power. Years later, famine struck the land, and his very brothers, the ones who betrayed him, came to Egypt seeking food. They bowed before him, just as his dream had foretold. But Joseph didn't seek revenge. He didn't use his power to crush them. Instead, he forgave. He said these words, Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." What maturity, what strength, to not just rise, but to forgive those who pushed you down. Friends, here's the message. Your setbacks are setups. The pit is not the end. The prison is not your final chapter. Betrayal is not your burial ground. Joseph's story reminds us that every disappointment, every delay, every denial, it can be a stepping stone to your destiny. So when people betray you, remember Joseph. When circumstances bind you, remember Joseph. When you feel forgotten, remember Joseph. And when you rise, because you will rise, remember to forgive. I want you to walk out of here today knowing this. Your dream is still alive, no matter what's been stolen, no matter how deep the pit, no matter how long the prison. Romans 8:28 promises us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Joseph's journey is not just history, it's prophecy. It's a mirror for your life. You might be in the pit now, you might be in the prison now, but if you stay faithful, if you keep believing, if you keep serving, your palace moment is coming. So I'll leave you with this question. What if your greatest setback is simply the stage being built for your greatest comeback? The pit is preparation. The prison is training. The palace is waiting. Joseph's life shouts this truth. What others meant for evil, God can use for good. So keep dreaming, keep believing, keep walking. Your destiny is still unfolding. Please like and subscribe to this channel for motivational stories from the Bible.